ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Purusha Sukta from Rigved. So far we saw that the Purus is actually pervading the whole universe. He is everywhere. He is the one who is manifested in everything created so far. We also saw some of the verses from Bhagavad Puran that how this universe was created. Now, at this point, I would like to mention one point that in the Western civilization, they talk about Darwin's theory that from a combination of matter, a cell was created and somehow the cell multiplied. They don't know how, they don't know what was the combination of matter, and then it developed into variety of organisms, including finally the human being. Now it says that from matter the consciousness arose. Now this is a fundamental question which should actually agitate our mind, because if you put a mountain for millions of years, it cannot acquire consciousness. Consciousness is separate from matter. That has been explained in our Shastras in a variety of ways. There are two ingredients, which is Prakriti, then Purush. Purush is consciousness, Prakriti is the matter, which has been created first through Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva comes into being as the atom of the atom, and from there the Prakriti arises with five great elements. And Purush provides the Chaitanya. That is what also called Parashakti in Bhagavad Gita. So the concept of the Western world actually does not stand anywhere. And the other thing is that everything starts with the highest order or purity, and then gradually it dilutes into impurity. Like a river starts at the mountains, which is very pure, and by the time it reaches the ocean, it becomes very impure. Similarly, human being starts from the divine being. It starts with purity, and with generations and generations, the decay happens, and after several generations, there's a lot of decay in the human values, and that is what we see today. The and in fact, the theory of Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug, and Kali Yug is based on that very concept. So it is my absolutely considered opinion that the theory of Charles Darwin stands nowhere in this whole concept of unfolding of the universe. In fact, the theory of Brahma, in which everything comes from consciousness, because Brahma is a conscious existence from where Prakriti and consciousness both come into existence. And that is what Purusha Sukta is explaining in great detail. So now we'll continue with our Purusha Sukta, the remaining mantras. Now, the mantra number 9 says that the Rig Ved, the Sam Ved, the Yajur Ved, and all other chandas and the sources of knowledge, they originated in the process of this yagna. The whole process has been described as yagna or yagya, the process of churning, that from the Brahma, how the manifest universe came into existence, that process is yagna. Now, at this point, we should also understand this word yagna. You see, yagna basically, as we understand in our mundane sense, is a fireplace in which oblations or in which you do the havan by putting certain what you call havi, which is given into the havan or oblations, and then we pray to the supreme for as per prescribed mantras in Vedas. Now that is one way of havan. That is what is generally understood by us. But the original meaning of havan in our shastras is very different. Havan is basically, there are two words here, that is Agni and Som. Havan is basically the combination of the Agni and Som giving birth to a third object or third, species. So when you, for example, you put, you know, you prepare food, you use fire and you use objects which are required for preparing food. Now it gives you a third element which becomes your food, eh, like chapati or vegetables. So the som is those elements like atta and vegetables are som and fire is agni. Now the combination of the two helps you in preparing the food. Similarly, you put a seed in the earth. The seed is the som and earth gives the fire because the fertility is in the earth. And the combination of the two gives rise to a plant or a tree, and then it develops into a big tree. So all the activities, even for example, clouds, the formation of clouds, the water is the som and the sun rays is the fire. The combination of the two gives birth to clouds. Similarly, the condensation process, when the rain happens, the temperature is the agni and the clouds are the som, and then it leads to rainfall or snowfall, yeah, or hails, whatever it is. So, in the process of running of this universe, yagna is basically the combination of agni and som giving birth to a third element, and that is what yagya is originally. So yagya has definitely an element of fire, and then it also has an element of som, that is the cool or cold thing. Even in case of regeneration of humanity, this is the same process which is followed in the process of regeneration. The conception happens because of the fire and the som mixing together. So this is what the Shastras say, that everything which has been created in the manifest universe, they arise from the yagya. So this word yagya has to be properly understood. So here in verse number 9 or the mantra number 9, the Purusha Sukta says that the entire knowledge came from this process of yagna. First, they described what the yagna is, and then he says some of the great saints and sadhus and devas, they came first. Then the birds and animals and all these variety of species of life, they came into being. Then the knowledge came into being through this process of yagna. And then it says further in verse number 10, From the process of creation, the process of yajna, were born the horses and all those animals that have teeth in both jaws, the cows and all types of goats. So basically, it means that all other species of life, whether they have two hooves, whether they have five hooves, whether they have one jaw, whether they have two jaws, all variety of animals arose from this process of yagna. And this yagna also gave birth to Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, Athar Ved. That is basically indication of the knowledge bank which came out from this process of yagna. So this is the process of we can call it creation or unfolding of this universe. This continues with in this mantras. Then it explains further. What did the divine Purus hold within him? How many parts were assigned in each huge form? What was his mouth? What was his arm? What was his thighs? And what was his feet? Now, the whole image of the divine Purus has been put in the form of a human being. Because this is what we can imagine. We have not seen the divine Purus. So we only imagine that divine Purus exists in the form of a human being. So they are saying how he appeared and what parts were used for what. So the next verse, which is very, immensely misunderstood around the world, is the verse number 12. The Brahmanas were his mouth, the Kshatriyas became his arms, the Vaishyas were his thighs, and Shudras were his feet. Now, this is a depiction of the four varieties of human being which exist in this universe. You go anywhere in the world, you will find four basic varieties of human being. The first variety, which is mentally alert, which is mentally more developed or smart. Like you have teachers, you have scientists, you have people who are, involved in inventions, people who are imparting knowledge, professors. So that variety of person which is teaching, which is involved in spreading the knowledge, is called Brahman. Now that has been compared with the head of the Purush because the intellectual power lies in the head or in the brain, and therefore that has been compared with the head of the Purusha, head of this divine being. Then normally the arms which we use or the chest, that part depicts the physical strength of a person. And that has been compared with what we call Kshatriyas, who are supposed to be very strong people physically and in terms of emotional stability. They can fight a war, they will not be wavered in very difficult conditions. So they are also basically the rural class is also Kshatriya. So that has been compared with the strength of the divine Purus, which is given in this part of the body. Then Vaishyas in the thighs. Thighs is also close to the reproductive organs of the human being. And reproduction shows that you multiply your wealth. So the multiplication, whether you do agriculture, whether you do production, whether you install a factory, that kind of work is done by Kshatriyas. And therefore, sorry, Vaishyas. And therefore, it has been compared that the thighs of the divine Purus gave birth to Vaishyas, a Vaishya category of people. Now, it can be other way around also that the Vaishya category of people form the thighs. And then the Shudras came from his feet. So, this process of demonstrating four varieties of human being with the four parts of the divine Purus has been misunderstood, and it has been converted into a linear thing that the head of the Purus is superior to the feet. Now we do not, I do not understand, without the feet, how can you walk, how can you talk? The feet of my body is as important as my head. My whole body, every organ of my body is equally important. And therefore, giving a value judgment to that and then telling Shudras that you are inferior to the Brahmanas is, is actually a misinterpretation of this sutra. This sutra simply says that there are four variety of people in this world, which is absolutely true. There are some people who are mentally strong, some people physically strong, some people are engaged in production and reproduction, and some people who are engaged in services. All those banking, insurance, artists, all those are people engaged in services. Now, none of them is superior to the another one, and it has not been indicated in this mantra anywhere. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, it has been further clarified that the four divisions of human being is based on their qualities: the quality of mind, the quality of physical strength, the quality of you know doing trading and reproduction and business, and the quality of doing services. So primarily all these four varieties, they exist in every part of this universe, every part of the world. You go to any country, you will find Brahmins who are engaged in mental activities, who are stronger in terms of brain power. Then the second category of person who are stronger in terms of physical power. Third category of people who are stronger in terms of business power. And fourth category of people who are stronger in terms of service power. So this is the reality of existence. These people, four varieties of human being, are available everywhere. There's no linear, division there. They are all horizontal. They are all equal with each other. The only difference is that the qualities are different. They perform different variety of functions. That's it. And this is what this sutra explains. But unfortunately, this has been grossly misunderstood, and this has been used to malign Hinduism by those people who have an agenda. But this mantra, or with this mantra taken together with Bhagavad Gita, very clearly explains that it is based on the quality of the human being, not on the scale of a linear where somebody is superior and somebody is inferior. That has no relevance here at all. Now let's go to verse number 13. Now this is again another depiction of the same Purus. Now you can say that the same kind of comparison has been done in mantra number 13. The moon was born from his mind, the sun was born from his eyes, Indra and Agni were born from his mouth, and Vayu was born from his breath. Now this is again a comparison that moon was born from his mind and sun from his eyes. Then you can say that the moon is more powerful than the sun, which is because the one is born from the mind, another from the eyes. The eyes are lower than the mind. So that comparison does not actually is the purpose. It is not valid anywhere. It is only a depiction on the mantra that how the Purusa gave birth to various, uh, you know, part of this existence which are in the manifest universe. So here, the moon came from his mind, the sun from his eyes, Indra and Agni were born from his mouth, and Vayu from his breath. This is just an explanation how the entire manifest universe came into being. And then the next verse, verse number 14, his navel became the sky. So it means the sky is less important than the moon. The moon cannot even exist if the sky is not there because moon came from the navel. If we apply the same logic as people have applied from the previous mantra, then it does not, it does not work anywhere. It simply is the depiction of different parts of the Purush, how they gave birth to various, different parts of the manifest universe. It has no, it would be foolish to tell them this is inferior and this is superior. They are all important. Everything which has come into manifest world has come from Purush, and they are all important for running of this universe. So the navel became the sky, his head became the heaven, his feet became the earth, and his ears the directions. In this manner, all the worlds were unfolded and regulated by him. So, this is basically like a poet when he writes something. These mantras have also been written in the form of poetry. This knowledge has been shared in the form of Sanskrit poetry. And then he philosophically he tells that the sky came from his navel and heaven from his head and earth from his feet. It is basically the explanation that everything that exists in the manifest world comes from the Purus, comes from different limbs of the Purus. So this is how the various worlds, this is not only one world, earth is one of them. There may be many, many worlds. So various worlds unfolded and they are regulated by him. So all this physical manifestation, manifestation of different species of life, all that has come from the Purush. Purush has given or rather unfolded those things from his own body. Now, here, one more thing we have to understand properly. In the Western philosophy, the God has been separated from the universe. The God created the universe like a potter creates a pot. There's a material, the potter uses that material to create the pot. That is the not the case in Hindu philosophy. In Hindu philosophy, there is no potter, there is only Srasta who unfolds his own body in the form of this universe. He himself actually manifests this universe. And that is why this manifest universe has been compared with his body. Because everything is embedded into his body. The universe is not separate from him. It is merely a manifestation. Like my eyes are not separate from me, or my nose is not separate from me. Similarly, the whole universe is not separate from the Srasta. And therefore, we call it Srasta and the Srasti. Srasti comes out of Srasta's body, and that is how the Srasta is able to pervade the entire universe. If the God is separate, if the potter is separate and the pot is separate, then the potter cannot pervade in the pot. It is not possible. When the whole universe comes along with the Purush, or the Purush comes along with the whole universe, then the Purush is already embedded in everything which is there in the manifest universe. And that is the concept in Hinduism, that everything which is there in the manifest universe, it is pervaded by the Supreme. Actually, the Christianity also accepts this, but there's a lot of contradiction in Christianity. The whole concept is different there. They also say that the Supreme is omnipotent. Now, he cannot be omnipotent if the world is different and the God is different. He can be omnipotent only when he is pervading the entire universe, entire manifest world. So, this is how our Shastras explain it, that he is pervading because he is part and parcel of this universe. Now, let me give you an example, a physical example. Now we see a tree. Now we see a tree is a separate entity. It appears to be a separate entity to us. But if you think deep, it is not a separate entity. It is rooted in the earth. The roots are there in the earth. If the roots are not there in the earth, then no tree can exist. So it is all the time bound with the earth. Now it expands in the sky. So it is all the time in the sky. If there's no sky, it cannot expand. So it is all the time in the sky. Sky is part of the tree. So it is rooted in the earth. It is part of the sky. Then if you look at it in a larger way, the earth is rooted in the space. Earth is rooted in the space. If there's no bigger space, then earth will not exist. So earth is part of the manifest, what we call Akash. So Akash is part of earth, earth is part of Akash. That earth is part of tree, tree is part of earth. The sky is part of tree, the tree is part of sky. Then the water is part of the tree. The sun rays is part of the tree because there's no existence of a tree without the sun rays. So if you look at the tree is a holistic representation of all the elements that exist in this nature. Similarly, if you look at ourselves, the same thing applies. So this is the Hindu concept is that whole universe is interconnected. It is woven. The Purus is woven into the entire universe, and the universe is woven into the Purus. This has also been told in Bhagavad Gita when Lord Krishna said that मैं बर्फ में जल की तरह से हूं. I think that is the best explanation. In barf, there is nothing else but jal. In ice, there is nothing else but water. Now, if there is no water, there can be no ice. Or we can give another example that I am like a wave in the ocean. Now, if there is no ocean, there can be no waves. The waves are also part of the ocean. They are ocean actually. There is no waves without ocean. So this is the way the Hindu philosophy explains this universe. The universe is unfolding from his body, and that is why his body, the Purusha's body, has been used to depict various parts of the manifest world. And this has been misunderstood by those who are ignorant, who do not understand this philosophy properly, who don't have that mental, alertness, which would explain all this properly. Or some people who do not know Sanskrit literature properly, who do not know the background of our, wisdom, they have misunderstood and misexplained, and our people have been misled because of that. So we have to be very clear that this depiction in these mantras of the body of the Purus is indicative of one fact that everything originates from that body. Everything is embedded there, and he is embedded in everything. And they are all equal because the whole body of the Purush is equal. I can't say that one part of my body is more important than the other. If I lose my eye, that is equally important as I lose my ear or my feet. So every part of my body makes my body work and represents it holistically. Similarly, every part of Purus is represented in this manifest universe, and that has been explained by these mantras. Now, verse number or mantra number 15. The enclosures of the yagna, verse 7, the 7 meters of chandas like the Gayatri, and 21, the, the 12 months, 5 seasons, and 3 worlds, and the sun. That makes 21. Were the logs of sacrificial fuel when the Devas celebrated the universal sacrifice with the Supreme Purus as the object of contemplation therein. Now, this is a very profound mantra. I don't think I'm really competent to explain it fully, but what I understand here is that the each and every component of this manifest universe comes from the sacrificial you know fire of this yagna, that the body of the supreme purus, body of the purus, has given birth to everything which we see in this universe, whether it is the knowledge, whether it is the species of life, whether it is the physical world which we see, whether it is the pranas, energy, senses, mind, all that comes from there. That is what I broadly would explain this. Whether it is devas or whether it is other species of life, they all come from there. So basically, this verse or this mantra, verse 15, tells us that whatever exists in this universe, each has its origin in the Supreme, and it is the depiction of the Supreme Himself. So this is how I will take this verse, this mantra. Now, mantra number 16. The Devas perform the external yagna by meditating on the universal being. Thus, they obtained the original laws governing the universe, dharma, by meditating on the greatness of the Chitakas, that is the Akas, Akas mixed with consciousness. The spiritual aspirants became the shining one themselves. So this verse is again in a poetic form, this particular mantra. This again explains how this universe is constructed and run by the Supreme. We can take it that the dharma, the whole concept of what is right and what is wrong, what we should do, what we should not do, what is good, what is bad, all that comes from there. Then the good people come from there. They use the yagna to take the goodness out of it. And all that spiritual knowledge which arises in this universe came from this yagna. So this is how I would briefly interpret this verse, that the whole process of knowledge, whole process of how to behave in this universe, the whole knowledge for which is the manual of humanity, comes from this yagna. So this whole thing has been described as yagna, which was conducted to manifest this universe. And the last verse number 17. I know the great Purus who shines like the sun beyond darkness. By knowing him alone, does one cross beyond death? There is no other way of going over there. That you can transcend the cycle of birth and death only by knowing that Purus, only by understanding him. That Purus is each one of us, he is embedded in each one of us. That is what we call Atma in ourselves. And that is why we emphasize that we have to understand that Atma, that Atma knowledge, that Atmatmik Gyan, we have to acquire in order to understand that Purusha, how that Purusha is manifesting everywhere, whatever is available in this manifest world. So this is what this last verse tells us, that if we want to transcend the cycle of death and birth, and if we want to be one with the Supreme, then we have to understand Him, and that Him means we have to understand our own selves. We have to understand our Atma. We have to understand our consciousness, which keeps us in this universe united with this body. So this is what I would conclude with this, great Purusha Sukta, which is actually the foundation of a variety of Upanishads. A large number of Upanishads and other Shastras have used this knowledge. Not only this, there are some other beautiful suktas in Vedas, which have been used by these rishis who ultimately wrote Upanishads and other Shastras, which are more practical and easier for us to understand. So, what I wanted to tell, that the knowledge in the Vedas is the foundational knowledge. This knowledge gave some sort of, inkling to the rishis and saints to expand it further, because these are only mantras and sutras. Sutra means a small, hint, and then these have been expanded a little bit more in Upanishads, and then Upanishads have been expanded further in the form of what we call Vyakhya. Like, a variety of saints, for example, Sankaracharya has given his Vyakhya on various Upanishads, or Vivekananda has given his Vyakhya, or some other saints have given his Vyakhya. Even Arvindo has given his own Vyakhya of some of the Upanishads. So the Upanishads are also an expansion of what has been explained in these suktas in Rigved. But then even the Upanishads are also not, fully expanded knowledge. They are also in the form of suktas or in the form of sutras. And those sutras have been further expounded and expanded by people who have knowledge. And that is how we need to keep understanding these, what we call secrets of knowledge, which are embedded in a variety of ways in the Vedas and the Upanishads. So the purpose of taking up this sukta was to understand that Vedas have given that foundational knowledge which gave rise to Upanishad, which is the last part of the Vedas and called Vedanta, or the culmination of knowledge, or the last, section of Vedas, whatever way you like. Ved Ant, whether you call it, last part of the Vedas or the culmination of knowledge of the Vedas, whatever way we explain or understand, doesn't matter. The idea is that the foundational knowledge which is there in the Vedas has been further expounded and expanded in Upanishads. And that has been further explained and expounded in variety of other writings, including some Puranas. So this is how the knowledge has come to the world. So now we understand that from that Purush, everything originates, the physical world, the conscious world, all species of life, whatever we see in this universe. He pervades that entire universe, all species of life he pervades. And he has created different attributes in different human beings. Similarly, he has created different attributes in different plants and other species. Some species live in water. A plant of lemon is different and a plant of apple is different. They have different attributes. Similarly, human being also have four basic attributes. Some are mentally strong, some are physically strong, some are business centered people, and some are service centered people. So these nowhere there is a sort of uh, feeling that something is higher than lower. Everything is equal. Everything has been created by the Supreme, and everything is pervaded by Him. And that is what, in fact, the Western world has also taken the same approach in certain ways when they call Him omniscient, that is all the knowledge, omnipresent, that everywhere is present, and omnipotent, that is all powerful. They have taken these three words, and they all three words start with om, which is the basic you know what you call sound in Vedas, which explains the origin of the universe, which explains that this is the most sacred sound which has given birth to everything else. So that word Om has been taken by the Christianity as well. Omnipotent, omniscient, and you know, present. And we have the same approach, that omnipresent, that is pervading everything. Isa Vasya Midam Sarvam. Everywhere he is there. Wherever there is a manifest universe, Supreme is there. Omniscient, we also have that, Pragyanam Brahm, that Brahm is all the knowledge is with the Brahm. We have that Mahavakya, Pragyanam Brahm, that all the knowledge comes from there, and that is what has been explained, that all the Vedas come from that yagna which was performed by the Supreme Being. And then present everywhere because he's pervading everything, he is embedded in everything, and everything is embedded in him. So, in that sense, the Western philosophy is contradicting. On the one hand, they distinguish the potter and the pot. On the other hand, they call him the omnipotent, omniscient, and present, which is contradicting each other. But in our philosophy, it is very clear. It is been very delicately explained that everything which is unfolding in this universe is pervaded by the Supreme. It is part of its own existence, it is part of his own body, and the body parts have been described depicting some elements of the manifest world, but that's only a what you call poetic expression. But fundamentally it says that everything comes from that body of the Supreme, and everything is pervaded by him. So I would like to conclude Purusha Sukta today, and next session we will start one of the Upanishads. So thank you very much, and if you have any query, I'll try to explain as much as I can. Thank you.